Hey guys, Maksat Ibrahimov here for MMA Heart. Today we have a very, very special guest on our show, the legendary matchmaker JD, Jordan Dickler. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing very well. How are you?
Doing well, sir. It's a huge honor to speak to you, and thank you so much for doing this. So JD, the first time that I met you was quite recently. I met you at BDC 23 in Kingston. We were there in the corner of Jason Jackson and of course Dilano Taylor, working with all of those Killcliff guys. So I was just wondering about your relationship with those guys.
So I work often with KO Reps. KO Reps is Oren Hodak. That's Delano's agent. Delano's agent asked me to basically take care of those guys for the weekend, make
Mhm,
sure that they had what they need, deal with the promoter, who I know very well, Woodrow James at BTC, the matchmaker. And just in the past, I've traveled many, many times to Cliff, so it was an easy
mhm,
transition. I know many guys at the gym. I've had a lot of guys, Impa Kasanage,
mhm,
Demarcus Jackson, and others from Ange Lusa, who's a good
mhm.
friend of mine. They've been on my XMMA show, so it's kind of an easy, we've all met before. So I wasn't expecting to be in the corner, but those guys gave me a great honor and asked me to accompany them to the cage. It was one of the nicest things that's happened in my professional career.
Wow.
So I was glad to have met you, and you saw me at a really good moment in my life.
No, that was a great fight for sure, and a huge win for Dilano as well. But sir, also on your Instagram, you have a picture I noticed with Marlon Moraes and Renato Moicano. Renato Moicano recently, he's been a veteran in the UFC for a long time now, but just recently, he became a huge, huge superstar. He now even has his own, space in UFC's 300 fight card as well, fighting, fighting there as well. So, just wondering, about Renato Moicano and what can you tell about his personality? He seems to be a huge personality.
Oh, so Renato cornered on my show, XMMA 5. He cornered a great young fighter named Mikey Linares, who's based in Brazil. Um, when I met Renato, instantly I had been a huge fan before based on the performances, but he had just cut basically his first promo, the first time
Mhm.
that he had talked about Moicano wants money, and the
Yep, yep.
first time he did it, and I told him I was a huge fan, and I saw that there was massive star potential. I told him that I was really, really, really interested in what he was doing, and that he should continue. Through time, we've had a personal relationship. He's developed a wonderful YouTube channel.
Yep, yep.
He has such a unique voice. He has such a unique talent. Um, Again, we would love to promote Mikey again. So
Mhm,
they're working in conjunction. Mikey now finally is at American Top Team with Renato.
mhm.
So basically, a working relationship that's turned into something a little bit more and a little bit more respectful. I find that he's one of the true characters of the sport, and everything that is coming for him now is really well deserved.
Absolutely, JD. I always make sure to watch every episode of Renato Moicano and Gilbert Burns, their new podcast right there, amazing podcast.
With Maddie Betts.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
Okay,
But
so
yeah, but also JD, I want to ask you. You also seem to be very, very in a very, very close relationship with all the TriStar guys. You seem to be in a very good relationship with the Zahabi brothers, Firas Zahabi, Ayman Zahabi, as well as of course Arnold Allen. So just also want to hear a couple words about those guys as well.
those guys, welcome me in the gym like family. I got to train under Eamon for a few years. Obviously, nothing serious or close to professional, but he taught me the way of martial arts, self-discipline, going to bed at the right time, eating the right things, keeping the right company. More so to build on the thoughts that Faraz has instilled on him as his older brother. Um, the gym is a really, really open place, really accepting. There's a lot of different backgrounds. People come in there, but it always stays respectful. Those guys have welcomed me into their life as family. I've gotten the opportunity to train with them. Like I said, I've gotten the opportunity to travel, be part of fight week with Eamon, and it's just been an incredible time. I travel with Eamon often to his fights, sometimes to accompany him when he's cornering or doing a commentary gig for Unified or something. But again, everything's a learning experience, and being part of their journey has helped me create contacts to help other people's journey and to see the right way about doing things, being professional, cutting weight, uh, committing media obligations, having a good respect with your family throughout this, good communication, and just learning.
Mhm.
And I thank them every day. I
Mhm.
think they know it. I think that we're both extremely lucky to have each other,
Mhm.
all of us, to have each other in each other's lives.
Mhm. And JD, this next question is by no way a knock on any of the Canadian promotions. I'm just wondering, what can all of us here in Canada do, to raise the Canadian MMA scene even more, to improve it to the next level? Because of course, I spoke with the legendary coach Sam Zakula, one of the best coaches here in Canada, and a lot of other coaches here, seem to tell me that we need more events. Also, we hear that a lot of fighters say that there's not good fighter pay, and just wondering about the Canadian MMA scene. What can be done to develop it further?
Look, I think that the true talent needs cage time. I think that within cage time, guys have to realize that taking a loss in MMA isn't the same as taking a loss in boxing. I think that within every loss and every win, there's a lesson to be learned, and most guys can't get past the fact that they're never as good as their last win, and they're never as bad as their last loss.
Mhm.
So it becomes a really, tenuous perspective for the promoter, for the fighter, for the camps, for the gyms. So for the agents even, everyone has their own dog in the fight, so to say. So it becomes everyone's trying to marry these desires, but it's really simple economics. And some of these fighters need to understand that the fighter pay needs to reflect what they bring into the promotion. So if they're traveling, and it costs the promoter a plane ticket, some flights, and there's no ticket sales that are leading from said fight, it's very difficult for casual people to lay their money down on something that they don't know, the unknown.
Mhm.
It's very easy for people to support their coworker, their family, their friend, their neighbor. So I think that right now the call for more events would be great. But I also think that the support of all the promotions kind of coming together and maybe pooling talent and being a little bit less exclusive and mine, everybody kind of has to share the talent pool right now, and you know, kind of push guys into accepting the best fights possible so that there's growth on the scene, and that when the fighters get to UFC, there's not a repeat of the 0-7 or some other style of a failure. That's an
Mhm.
indictment on the Canadian scene, or the growth of the Canadian scene.
Mhm. And JD, I of course interview a lot of these local fighters, and all I seem to hear is that it's very hard to break out from the Canadian local scene. And also I'm just wondering, of course there can be only one GSP, but what do you think it will take for Canada to raise the next GSP, raise the next Canadian guy, to get to that top UFC level, and for us of course to see more guys break into the UFC and become top UFC, maybe world champions, become someone who can follow the footsteps of GSP and truly honor him.
I think that a lot of guys view being in the UFC as a badge of honor. And when the UFC calls, they are ready to go because they want to pursue a career as a full time fighter. They want to be paid to fight and not to work as a teacher and a fighter, or as a fireman and a fighter, or as a waiter and a fighter. The problem right now is that the UFC's desire to have to have fights and fighters at their very rawest and greenest stages hinders the development of these fighters. So once you're in the deep end, there's no going back. The
And you know,
problem is that so many of these guys are going to the UFC too early, don't believe in their skills truly that much, and don't take their time to hone their craft with cage time regionally. Their first real tough experience is either on Contender or
mm,
on a fight night. And they've never actually taken the time to really be an undercard fighter, save maybe 2 or 3 fights.
mhm.
They're always at the end of the night after 10 fights have ran, the last show, the lights are going off after them. And now they're the first fight of the night.
Mhm,
There's no fans. There's
mhm,
nobody cheering their name. There's
mhm,
no swaying the judges.
mhm, mhm,
It's a tough place to learn. And it's a tough place to lose your confidence.
mhm, mhm. And of course, JD, you always try to put on the biggest fights here in Canada, make the best shows for the fans. I'm just wondering, what do you look for in your fighters, the guys that you promote, the guys who are under you? Do you always look for that, it factor, for that star potential? Do you think it's important?
No, I look for work ethic and I look for self motivation.
Hmm.
I think those are things that you can't teach. I think that those are the things that separate people that talk about wanting to fight and people that actually want to fight. I think that honing your craft will never end, and I think that the guys that you see become elite are in their 30s. It's not like other sports where you see guys peak between 25 and 29.
Hmm.
In NFL, by the time you're 30, you're probably not playing.
Hmm. Hmm.
So, cage time and learning the intricacies of fighting and the little tricks of the trade are very, very undervalued. And a lot of the time, guys become stars in MMA when, unfortunately, they've absorbed too much damage. So, you
Hmm.
see them kind of fade. You see the quick peak, and then you see the long valley, you know.
Hmm.
So,
And I mean, JD, you're of course a diehard fan of the sport. You're an all-out mixed martial arts guy yourself. Just wondering, I heard that you're a jiu-jitsu practitioner as well. Just wondering, what is your jiu-jitsu like, and what is, your wrestling skills like?
oh, no, nowhere close to anything good. I only rolled privates. I never really loved jujitsu that much. I don't really
Okay.
love getting sweat on. I never really had partners. I always had really advanced partners, so it was
Mhm,
always fun.
mhm,
But it wasn't always that fun to,
mhm,
like some of them would show me moves. I mean,
mhm,
like incredible stuff that I had no business knowing at the time.
mhm, mhm.
Louis Sanudakis actually was
Yep, yep.
my teacher. He was
Okay.
on the BTC card. He had a first round finish, so you get an idea of how good his grappling is if you watch that fight.
Mhm,
Um,
mhm,
um, but now I'm fully retired from doing anything athletic.
mhm.
I'm way, way, way too busy in my own business and then pursuing my career in MMA.
Mhm. And of course, Jordan, you're a very well-traveled man yourself. You always live in Canada, Montreal. Of course, you always travel to the US. You also go to Dubai all the time as well. I'm from Kyrgyzstan myself, and just wondering, what do you know about that part of the world? What do you know about Kyrgyzstan? What do you know about Central Asian countries, Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, Russia? Would you ever consider, going there for a visit as a tourist?
I would love it. I would love it. I have family in Russia. Well, I had family that was based in Russia. My family immigrated to Canada from Russia and Poland after World War II.
Mhm,
So, I definitely have a lot of interest. I have a very dear friend that I'm also, it's all over my Instagram profile, Said Yokub Kakramanov. He's
mhm,
Uzbeki,
mhm,
and I promised him that I would visit. So I hope in the next 12 to 16 months to visit that part of the world and expand my horizons and see for myself. I'm not really a big news guy. I'm more of a see for your own eyes and shake people with your own hand type deal guy. It's always worked well for me to be that way, and I think that it's naive to fear something that you don't know.
And JD, a couple last ones from me here, before you wrap up. I always make sure to ask, my guests some very fun questions as well. So, just please answer these ones, very lighthearted, nothing serious. JD, just wondering, who is the most famous person in your contact list on your phone?
I mean, I got a lot. Ali Abdelaziz, maybe.
Wow. Wow.
I
Wow.
mean that. I mean, Danny Rubenstein, probably the agents. I don't know. Like I've got some fighters, but again, there's too many, right? So but like in terms of MMA landscape, that's been forever. I guess Ali Abdelaziz.
hmm hmm And JD, one more fun question. My last fun question would be, how do you think, you would do if you were, in the octagon, for example, with Khamzat Chimaev? How long do you think you could survive for? For example, one person asked me that question. I said, I would be happy if I survived, 30 seconds. But, just wondering how much you would survive.
10 seconds max. But I'm smart enough to preserve. I would take a punch and I would turtle.
Great, great.
Smart
And
enough to preserve.
mhm. And JD, my last thing that I want to go over before we wrap up here. So JD, I recently signed with GMS Sports Management in Kyrgyzstan. I myself, planning a big project, to bring Kyrgyzstan fighters and Central Asian fighters here to Canada, together with GMS as well as FRM. Just wondering, what your thoughts, very basic thoughts about, this, project that's coming up, and how massive do you think it could be for the sport in both Canada and Kyrgyzstan?
Well, first, congratulations. I think it's wonderful that you want to expand your horizons and that you would like to help people more than anything, especially your countrymen. I think that the sport's growing, and I also believe that it's really imperative for different regions to, have these fights, just to see where the regions are at and see and push the sport forward. Regardless, not every fighter will get to the UFC or PFL, but friendly and healthy competition that lasts forever between two nations, I think, always is important. And these guys, whether they win or lose, this is something that is on the annals of history forever in sport, and it's nothing to be ashamed of. And I think that it's going to be wonderful. I think that hopefully the Canadian government is willing to let Kyrgyz come and the population from Kyrgyzstan come and visit in that area and pursue athletic greatness through Canada. And we can be a little part of someone, maybe the next great story.
My man JD, it's a huge pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much for your time. And before I let you go, could we get a final message for all the Matchmaker JD fans out there worldwide?
Hey, everybody, keep working hard and keep supporting the sport. I think that it's so important that people love and care about the sport and understand that it's not just the UFC. If we cultivate the next athletes, they'll stay in the sport. They won't pursue other sports. There's going to be a need going forward for a different organization, hopefully, that um, helps promote the growth, helps promote the underprivileged of the sport. Because right now, I believe there's a lot of politics, and they need to be cleaned from the sport in order for it to become a meritocracy like it should be, and not a you know, hey, I know this guy game.
And JD, actually, last thing, very quick thoughts. UFC recently announced a big event, first ever historic event in Saudi Arabia. Khamzat Chimaev versus Robert Whittaker. Who do you think is going to walk out of there, with the W? Do you think Khamzat Chimaev can stay undefeated, or will the Reaper once again earn his shot at Dricus du Plessis?
I think Whittaker will. I think that there's a lot of room and potential for Chimaev's growth because we haven't seen him in a while. But if he hasn't made the adjustments and he's living a really coddled life in that part of the world without the necessary and proper training partners, I think that Whittaker will win after 5 rounds.
Thank you so much for your time, JD. Great talking to you.
Great. Thank you. Have a great
Thank you
night.
so much. Thank you. Thank you.